Hey everyone, Todd from SideshowFX once again, and in this video I'm going to go through the installation and navigation of our Studio One Pro profiles for the Stream Deck XL and MK devices. Now this is featuring version 2 of this pack when we've added quite a few new changes to it. If you're updating from version 1 of our pack to version 2, it's a good idea to go through all these installation steps again, just to ensure that everything is operating correctly, as some changes have been made along the way. Now I'll be demonstrating most of this video using my Mac with the Stream Deck XL device. Most of the steps and the navigation are the same on the MK device and the same on the Windows system. Where it differs, we'll jump over to Windows and demonstrate that part. So when you've downloaded the pack and unzipped it, this is what you're going to see. The first thing we want to do is we need to install a few plugins. The first of which is the MIDI plugin by Trevliga Spel, and that is available within Stream Deck itself. Now, depending on which version of Stream Deck you're currently running, you will get to that MIDI plugin in a few different ways. Now, I'm running Stream Deck 6.4 right now, but how you'll get to it is up here you see some icons and we see the new Marketplace logo. Clicking on this will open up the Marketplace in our browser, and once it's loaded, the handy search box here, just type in MIDI, and you'll see we get a few results, including some of our packs that are now available through the Marketplace. We want this one here, the MIDI by Trevliga Spel, so clicking on that. And you will need to be signed in order to get this to download. It's a free download. So once you're signed in, I have it installed, so instead of this open in Stream Deck, you'll see a blue Get button. You press that and it will install into your Stream Deck right away. So if you're running Stream Deck software 6.3 or earlier, there's a different way of going about it. So with your Stream Deck software open, you'll navigate to the store icon and open that up. And along the side, you'll see a Plugins tab. We'll click on that. Go to the search box here. We're going to type in MIDI. And this is the one we want here, MIDI by Trevliga Spel. Now, if you see that it says uninstall, likely you've already installed it, possibly from having one of our earlier packs. But if you have not installed it, you'll see a blue install button. Just click that and it'll load directly into your software. So once you have that MIDI plugin installed, the next plugin, we have a plugin of our own that we've included inside the pack in the plugin folder. And just with your Stream Deck software open, double-clicking this file will load our plugin in as well. Now the next thing we need to do is we've got some graphics for the dial strip of the profiles that we've included. So with these Trevliga Spel graphics that we've got here, this folder needs to go into our Documents folder. So just opening up my Documents folder, you see we have Documents here. I would take this Trevliga Spel, drop it right into the root of my documents. Now as you can see, I already have Trevliga Spel here. And if you have some of our other packs and you've already loaded a Trevliga Spel graphic folder into your documents, then you can just open this up and copy these in, or if you already have the MCU, you can just copy just the Studio One into your existing Trevliga Spel folder. Now over here on the Windows side, the Trevliga Spel graphics are dealt with the same way. You would take the entire folder and drop it into your Documents folder. And like we showed earlier, if you already have the Trevliga Spel, you would just go in and copy the folder that currently does not exist in your current install of Trevliga Spel. So once you've dragged and dropped that directly into Documents, because this pack uses MIDI control, we're going to need to set up our MIDI on our system. So on the Mac here, we're going to open Audio MIDI Studio. And we'll, if you don't see the MIDI Studio here, it will be under Window. It'll say Show MIDI Studio and it'll pop up. And we double click this Properties panel. Now you'll see that there's a few things here we need to do. First of all, device name, it's blank. Let's leave it blank. You don't want to type anything in here. Secondly, make sure that Device Online is checked. And then we'll go down here to the Ports window. We're going to add in a couple ports. So we'll click on the plus icon. We're going to double click this to allow us to edit the name. We're going to type in Mackie to DAW. So capital M, capital D with the 2 in there exactly as I have it written. And then we're going to hit the plus again. click this, DAW to Mackie, capital D to and capital M, just like that. And then we're going to click Apply. Now we've just created those two new ports. We can now leave Audio MIDI Studio. Now on the Windows side, in terms of getting the MIDI ports connected, what you need to do is download a free piece of software from Tobias Eriksson called LoopMIDI. And we have provided the link in the description below. It's also in the PDF for you to access. And when you open it, likely if it's the first time, this will all be blank. But we're going to enter in a couple of ports here for LoopMIDI. And just as a side note, this is a free piece of software provided by Tobias Eriksson. We encourage you to go to the About here and to make a PayPal contribution to them for this wonderful piece of software allowing us to connect our MIDI ports on the Windows system. So with the ports selected here in Setup, we're going to, you see how this is already highlighted, so we can start typing right away. And what we're going to type is the first port, and it's Mackie to DAW, capital M, capital D. And this one will be capital D, A-W to capital M, A-C-K-I-E, DAW to Mackie. We'll then hit the plus once again to add that port. And you see that we have both of them connected here. And now we're going to leave this open and just tuck it out of the way. Now let's launch Studio One. And I'm working on Studio One 6.5 at the moment. It looks slightly different than earlier versions, 6.2 or earlier. For the most part, most of these directions are going to apply. It's just that when you get to our macro, which I'll indicate in a few minutes, that's the only thing that is available on 6.2 or later. Okay, so the first thing we want to do is, since we have created a number of keyboard shortcuts of our own, you need to install our key map. So you'll go to Studio One, Keyboard Shortcuts, and you can see here we have the keyboard mapping scheme. We're going to click on this. We're going to say Import. We're going to navigate to your downloaded folder from SideshowFX, and we're going to go into the Studio One key map, into your operating system. We're currently on the Mac, and we'll double click this one to load it. It would say yes, and you'll see that it doesn't actually give us the name of the one that we've just loaded. It just says modified. So we'll apply and say OK. Now you know that we have the SideshowFX key map is installed. Now we want to set up the MIDI ports. We're going to go to Studio One, Preferences. We're going to go to External Devices, and we're going to say Add. From the device list, we're going to go down to Mackie, click on Control, and in the Receive From, we're going to say Mackie to DAW, and the Send to, the DAW to Mackie. And we'll say OK. Now we see it loaded here. We're going to click on Edit, and we're going to change the name, the device name here. So we'll change it to SFX Control, exactly as you see here, and double checking that we do have the Mackie to DAW and the DAW to Mackie there. Next thing we want to do is we're going to click on Placement, and we're going to drag this into Group 1. And when we close, and once we've done that, click OK. Now if you're on Studio One 6.2 or later, you'll be able to import our macro. If you don't have it visible in the time bar here, we'll just go right here. And we're going to go over to this menu, this global menu here. We're going to say Import. We're going to navigate to our download again. And inside the folder is a productivity macro folder. And we're going to double click this to install it. And you'll see it shows up here, productivity. Now the next thing we want to do is go down to your mixer view down here. We'll click on the Show External Devices icon. We'll click on SFX Control, and we'll say Edit. And we get our External Devices dialog here for our SFX Control. Now we'll want to go through and add in different commands for each of the F keys here. So by right-clicking, we can assign a command, and the first one is going to be Add Audio Track Mono, and you'll say OK. F2 will be Add Instrument Track, F3 will be console. F4. This is going to be open channel, so let's do a search for that. Right-click F5. This will be add insert. F6 will be add send. F7 will be previous track. And F8 will be next track. Once that's finished, you can close that down. So now with that loaded, the next step to do is we're going to import the profiles themselves. Now you go to your Studio One package here, go into the Stream Deck profiles, and you'll see it's divided in between Mac and Windows, depending on what operating system you're working with and what device you're working with. Each one of these has a profile for the MK device, which is your 15 key, or the XL device, your 32 key. So depending on what you're working with, if you're on a Mac, you can double click the profile and it will load into your Stream Deck software as long as your software is open. And if you have more than one device, make sure it is selected for the correct device. You can see I have several different devices connected. I want to make sure my XL device is showing before I would double click the appropriate profile. I would be double clicking the XL Mac because I'm on Mac with my XL device. On the Windows system, you should be able to double click the profile that you want and have it loaded in. Sometimes it doesn't work. If that is the case, you'll need to go to the preferences, go to profiles, go to the bottom arrow down here, click on it and click import, and then you would navigate to your SideshowFX folder and import the correct profile. Now with that loaded up, this is what you're going to see. Now we can get into the navigation of everything that's involved in this profile. Now on the main page of the profile, you can see we're divided into a few different sections here. The blue keys all represent different folders that we can get into to access the different parts of the software. Kind of self-explanatory, many of them. File gives you all the shortcuts for file functions, as does edit. And you'll find in several of these there are multiple folders that you can also step into to access even more functions. Now you see also on the main page we have a series of MIDI commands. Now the most obvious thing we see is we have a couple of track faders. And the one on the left here is our selected track fader. As you can see on my software, I have percussion track has been highlighted. So just by pressing the track fader on my device, I'm moving that selected track's track fader. Of course, the one right next to it is our master, and we can adjust the master the same way. Now above it, we can see that we have pan control. This is left and right pan control, and this works for the currently selected track. And we see we get the live update on the keys themselves. Of course, we have the regular transport functions along the bottom here that we can take advantage of. And with this, we get live feedback on the key above. Now the flip fader pan, when you press this, these keys will now be able to adjust the fader if you choose to work them that way, and this key would work the pan. So let's jump into a feature that is quite unique to our set here. We're going to go into the VST Plugin folder. Now this allows us a certain amount of control over our VST plugins. There's a little bit of setting up to do on this one, so what we want to do, the first thing we want to do is we want to click the Add to Selected Track button here, and that brings up the Add Instrument to Selected Tracks dialog box on Studio One. What we want to do is take our cursor, we're going to move the cursor over top of the drop down here under Instrument, and we're going to go to our device and we're going to click the instrument keybind key and hold it until we see a green check mark. And there you see it, and what that has done, it has recorded this position on our screen. So if I have my mouse somewhere else I'm going to press the Add to Selected Track. Now if I press that keybind key, you can see it immediately jumps to that area and presses on that drop-down box. Now this is important because this action is going to be triggered for each of the VST keys that we've got on this page. So if I close this down and click on any one of these VST keys, let's choose Hallian, it loads the Hallian VST onto a new instrument track. Now we've preloaded several VSTs onto this page, and of course you need to have the VSTs loaded on your system in order for these VSTs to be called up. And we have some of the more popular ones here, but you can see that we have some blank keys here. Now these are on purpose. These are designed to allow you to add in your own custom VSTs that don't appear here. Now if we go to the Stream Deck software, and let's just click on this one here. If we double click on it, we can open it up and we can see the series of actions that take place in order for this effect to occur. Now, because it's blank, it's not going to do anything right now until you enter in the name of the VST you want in this text box. So we want to make sure that we get the correct spelling of the VST we want to load in. So let's just click our Add Instrument Track. Let's say we want to add in this chord Triton. So we go back to our Stream Deck, and under the System Text User, we're going to add in the text exactly as it appears in our software. And we can come back out here. We can just temporarily add in the name. Now go back to Studio One with our track selected. Press that key. It'll add the Triton VST to our track. Now in our SideshowFX pack, we've also provided a series of icons for you to use. If you go into the SD dials, VST and VST folder, and we'll look for the Triton one. We have included the chord Triton icon for you to use. And we'll take this one and we'll drag it over top of our icon tray there, and we can just turn off our text. Now it appears on our device, and at any time we want to load in the Triton VST, we have it available to us. So that's how quickly it is to just customize any of these keys to any of the VSTs that you have loaded on your system. Now you notice that we have some user presets that are on this page that will allow us at the press of a button just to access any of the presets that we personally have stored. So I've got my Hallian VST up right now, and you can see I've got under my presets here a preset I've labeled bells. Now if I want to navigate through the different presets that I've stored, you can just click the buttons on your Stream Deck here, and your user presets can be switched between. Now the factory presets, you will need to assign the key locations for those presets themselves. So much in the same way as we showed you to use the location of the drop-down box by pressing and holding the key, we're going to do the same thing with the factory presets. Now we've got Hallian here, so here is our next and previous. So we'll start with the previous. We're going to mouse over top of the Load Previous program. We're going to press and hold the factory preset for there until we see the check mark. Same thing with the Load Next program. Press and hold. And now we can navigate through all the different factory presets. Available in this VST. Now the next one we're going to look at is the Insert Effects right beside it. Now this does the same sort of method as the VST plugins, except that it allows us to do it with effects. So the first thing we want to do here is we're going to click on the Add Insert Effects button, and that brings up the Add Insert to Selected Channels dialog box. Now here we're going to take the cursor and we're going to mouse over the device drop down right there, and we're going to press and hold on the Inserts keybind key here until you see the green check mark. Now with any track selected, I want to apply any of the effects here. This will go through the process and launch that particular effect for me. And much in the same way we showed you on the VST plugins, we've also provided a series of custom keys to allow you to add in your own effect. So double clicking into any one of these, we can see that we have the same sort of structure, and you're going to change the effects name here in this field. So you want to make sure you get the exact name of the effect that you want to load. Let's say, for example, we want to load up a de-esser. We want it to be spelled exactly this way. And we can change the name here if we want. Go into Studio One and try out that key. And it applies that effect for us. Now, just like the VST, we've provided a series of different icons for effects. You might find the one that you're looking for here. Here we do have a de-esser, so we can take this, drag it up over top of our icon tray, and just turn off our text. And now we have a nice icon to go along with that effect. Now we'll quickly take a look at our mix console page here. This kind of expands on the MIDI controls that we have on the main page. It allows us to change the tracks and banks that we're working on. We can do read, write, latch and track, and mutes and solos, along with our transport functions along the bottom, and our selected track fader and our master track fader. Now you may find if you have more than 8 tracks, now I'm going to select this track way down here. Even though I have that track selected, if I go to my device and try to adjust the fader, you see I'm getting a channel unknown error here. That's because the track I selected is outside the first bank of 8. The way the MIDI protocol works in banks of 8. So we're outside this bank of 8. You can see we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. We're on track number 10 here selected. So how do we get control of this track? Well, that's why we have the bank keys here. So by pressing the bank key once, you can see it automatically updated, gave me the name of the track, and now I can adjust this track. If I then want to control, say, track number 2, and I want to make an adjust, you can see I get the same channel unknown error. We have to bank ourselves back to the first bank of 8. Now it recognizes it and allows us to control it. You can also switch between the tracks very quickly with these keys. Now let's jump into Colorize. This allows us, of course, to quickly colorize any tracks that we have selected. Let's select a few of them here, and let's color them orange. Simple as that. Press of a button, we can colorize our tracks. Now, in the rename track folder, this is just a very quick and handy way to rename any of our particular tracks. So let's say I've got percussion listed here. If I want to change it strictly to drums, just pressing that quickly allows me to enter in a new identifier for my tracks. Now, custom. This allows us to control any effect or VST parameters with our Stream Deck device. And let me show you what I mean here. So I've got Halion up here, and let's say that I want to assign a few of these parameters to my Stream Deck keys. Well, it's very easy to do. We just take the usual hovering mouse and assigning the coordinates procedure, where I'm going to hover over cutoff here, press and hold on the first one, that records that position, move over to resonance, and that records that position. Now those two keys, those two parameters are assigned to those keys. So with my mouse sitting over top of resonance, I can control that with my Stream Deck device by using the left and right key. You can see we're able to make the control here. We can go up and down if we choose. Now with the AI knob on the far bottom right, that allows us to control it in a finer increments. You can see we're controlling it on a much finer scale. Now with this, I can jump back over to cutoff, adjust my cutoff, back over to resonance, and I can quickly assign a few more keys. And now I can jump between all of these very quickly using my device. And of course you can get into each one of these keys and you can label them appropriately so you know what they are. Now over on the Windows side, we've got a utility that is Windows only that we can install. Now what this utility script is going to allow us to do is be able to use a third-party hardware volume controller and integrate it with our work in Studio One. You can see it here under the utility script Windows only folder. Inside there's an auto hotkey file and a utility executable file that we've created. Now this should always stay in the same location, so we're going to take this and we're going to copy it to our documents folder. So just drop that, copy it into documents, and then it always stays in the same location. Now on our main page, we're going to go to the utility script, and you see we have a load script button here. If we click on it once, you can see it's looking for that executable file in a particular location. So we want to direct it to the correct location in our documents folder. So let's click on this select a file. We'll go into our documents folder. We'll go down to that utility script Windows only, and we will select this executable file and say open. And now it's pointing to the correct file for us. So now with that lined up, we'll go to Studio One. On my device, I'm going to press load script, and you can double check that it is loaded by going down to your system tray at the bottom here, and you'll see that it's active right there. Now with that load script loaded, I can click on zoom time, and this will now allow me to use my controller to zoom the timeline in and out. I can click zoom vertical, and this will allow me to expand or contract the tracks in Studio One. I can turn it into a scroll device, clicking scroll, and now I can use my volume controller as a scroll device. Now the AI knob, this will allow us to control parameters in our VSTs or effects. So if we open up one of the VSTs that we've got here, we've got Impact is loaded here, so let's launch that. If we mouse over any of these controllers and I click on AI knob, now I can use my volume controller to adjust these parameters. Anything that I am currently moused over top of will allow me to control with my volume controller. Now if you don't have a hardware volume controller, you can perform the same functions by using these keys. You can control it that way. So it might be a little handy utility for you if you have a hardware controller. You may find different uses for it this way. So that's a brief overview of some of the main things we've got in this profile. Hopefully it's going to help you out in your sessions. As always, thanks for watching. We'll talk to you soon.